ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Tech 4 podcast. Back with our usual recording studio, the gray backdrop. We're back to doing this the old-fashioned way, ladies and gentlemen. And speaking of old-fashioned ways that we're talking about today, we've got a whole entire episode that Mr. Tech himself has decided to kind of... Jeff, what do you got there?
Cords. I got cords, and more cords.
You seem like you're very excited about your cables.
Well, I'm excited for the old school mouse from 40 years ago.
Actually, I'm not opposed to that idea, the old Lenovo ThinkPad or ThinkStation mice. Yeah, I kind of miss seeing those things in the old school computer labs. But, we're talking about cables today, and, Jeff has this whole thing where he talks about cutting the cord. Well, guys, we're not talking about cutting the umbilical cord today. We're focusing on cutting your cables and cutting, I guess, fat out of your life, you could say.
That's absolutely right.
So where in the world do we need to go with this?
Yeah, so let's talk about this for a second. So I have been over to thousands of our fellow realtors' homes doing and setting up computers, distributing computers, training on computers. Love computers, love technology. We both do. Mr. Tech and Mr. Junior Tech here.
The tech nerd.
The tech nerds, right? We're the tech nerds. So anyways, and what I do is, other than training them, I say, by the way, how would you like to save at least $300 to $500 a month? I sound like, give me 15 minutes and I will save you. I'm like Geico.
Y'all trying to save 15% or more?
And that's kind of what it is. And so they go, and here's the thing, I don't represent any company out there in terms of third-party companies, AT&T, Sprint, T-Mobile. I don't do any of that. I just say I love saving my fellow realtors money, and that's what it comes down to. And I have to tell you, over just the last 2 weeks, the average that I do save people is about $250 to $350, and it's pretty amazing.
Wow.
Now, the reason is, a lot of these, to be fair, is that the average age of a realtor, according to NAR, is 60 years of age. So, in other words, most people are still doing a lot of old school things like the corded mouse. Don't even worry about all the cords. I'm going to throw them off the table anyways, right? Or the HDMI, or just,
Hey, we still use these.
Yeah, we actually do still use this, so be careful with that. There are a lot of things that we still do use, but there's a lot of things that you don't need anymore. So a lot of people say, well, how are you going to save me money? And it is all about cutting the cord. So let's talk about this for a little bit. So let's first talk about your internet /TV /old school phone bill.
The landlines.
The landline, that's what it's called,
There's
right?
a few of you who are surprised that I know what those are.
Actually, I'm kind of surprised that you know what that is, so just to let you know. And so, depending on where you are in the country and even the state, right, where we are in the Phoenix metro area here in Maricopa County, it's mainly Cox or it's going to be CenturyLink. And I understand there's other carriers out there depending on what part of the valley you're in, but let's take Cox, for example. Now, I do want to let you know, if you're listening to this and you are a Cox employee, this is not a bash on any company. So I'm not disparaging anybody. I'm just brutally honest because I know that a lot of you are paying a lot for your 3-in-1 bill. You're paying $300. I've seen $400 with all the different channels, streaming channels and stuff like that. So
when in reality, you only watch about 2 or 3 of them.
And that's really what it comes down to. So the very first thing I say is, are you using your landline? Now, there are people who actually do want a landline. And I'm still a little bit surprised, but I get it. And I go, well, did you know that you can actually get, I read for this one, not a full landline, but you can get an emergency only number landline where it does not have the FCC fees. It only allows you 30 minutes, which is plenty of time to do what you need to do for emergencies, hopefully for emergencies. So I have to tell you that really, in and of itself, will bring down their bill. Even if it's only $25 for a landline, it brings down to like $10. And most people don't know that. So I think that's kind of interesting. But then the next thing I say is, what about your TV? Well, Jeff, don't take away my TV. I'm like, I'm not taking away your TV, but I'm just here to cut the cords so that you can save money there.
Have you heard of these things called smart TVs? They're capable now.
They are capable, and a lot of them already have it built in. Samsung has its own version, and they all have their own version of the TV, where actually you don't even need to go other places. But you know what? If you do want to go to a third party, so I'll give you some example of the YouTube TV. That's the one that I use personally. Roku has one. There are a lot of third-party companies, things you probably even haven't heard of before, that are going around where you can watch TV, and I mean local channels, right? A lot of people say, well, I never got the local ABC and CBS and NBC and Fox, but you do. You can actually get hyper-local channels, which means that even if you go out of state, and you're at a hotel, you're at an Airbnb, Vrbo, whatever the case may be, you can actually watch your local channels from anywhere in the world, which is pretty cool.
Wow, so that means I don't have to adjust the bunny ears on my TV. Yes, I know what those are. I don't have to adjust the bunny ears on top of my TV to get that channel that I want.
Right, when you're in New York, to adjust the bunny ears to phone home Arizona. Yeah, that you don't need that anymore.
So I love that idea, but here's the thing. Even in my opinion, I think live stream TV, the live channels and things like that, those are starting to become kind of things of the past, very slowly but surely, as these streaming platforms start taking over. So question kind of becomes, not to take you off of your pathway, but how in the world do I pick the right streaming platform for myself?
Well, so I want to make sure that we're talking about the same streaming platform, right? Because there's a lot of platforms that do stream, and other than ones that I just talked about, and I don't know if you're talking about specific Max or Disney Channel or Hulu, right? Yes. Which is a whole different story. Yep. And by the way, there's Hulu only, and then there's Hulu Plus TV on top of that. So it makes it really, really confusing. And then I know people who say, well, not only do I have my channels, my local TV channels, but I also have all of those streaming platforms. And guess what? They're back up to $300 a month between everything, which also makes it a little bit scary, right? So,
and that's the name of the game. Is you want to save money, those subscriptions can start adding up really, really quickly.
Really, really fast, especially with a lot of them coming out with $15.99 a month and $17.99 a month. It's not like your little $5 a month package anymore. It's definitely gone up.
No, you're lucky if you're getting the $7.99 with ads.
Yeah, that's right. The $7.99 with ads. And by the way, just quick side note, really quick. Once again, I do not work for any cell phone service, so I just want to let you know this up front. But did you know that T-Mobile, out of all of them, actually gives you Netflix for free, which is pretty cool. They also give you AAA, right? I'm not talking about the Alcohol Anonymous. That's, I'm talking about the actual, the auto club, where if your car breaks down, you can go ahead and do that as well. So it's pretty cool. They also give you free movies every once in a while, and you go down to the movie theater and actually watch it. So that's kind of cool.
Well, you remember way, way back in the day, T-Mobile used to have the T-Mobile TV that you could watch on your phone?
Right.
One of the bloatware apps that would come installed on your Android device or your iPhone that you got directly from the T-Mobile store?
Absolutely, and I do remember that. So that's kind of cool. And actually, since we are talking about kind of T-Mobile, and then let's throw some Verizon in there, remember, those are the only two that actually have their separate box to get high-speed internet. So let's even forget about Cox high-speed internet. Let's forget, which we're going to go back to that because it's about saving money, but even forgetting about Cox internet or CenturyLink internet or wherever you are in the state of Arizona or in the United States, there's different ones out there. But I want to let you know that if you say, you know what, I might be moving, I want to take it with me, there's a lot of other things out there. I have to tell you that T-Mobile 5G or the Verizon 5G box, which you can pick up, take anywhere you want, and by the way, those are usually a lot less expensive than the Coxes and the CenturyLinks. And if you want to talk about internet you could take with you. Of course, there's Starlinks.
Yeah, I was actually just about to mention Starlink for that matter.
Yeah.
Probably saw it pulled up on my iPad here. But Starlink, you can get this thing either for your house or for on the go.
Right.
So for those of you who are in your retirement years of your real estate career and you've got RVs that you're taking all over the country,
Absolutely right.
get Starlink on the go. So when you get stuck in the middle of the jungle in Brazil with your RV, you still got your internet and cell connection.
That's absolutely right, which is super cool if you think about that. So there's lots of alternatives to the traditional, once again, Cox and CenturyLink to get your internet. So,
I mean, I'd still argue that Cox is better than CenturyLink in my opinion. But
and by the way, I fully agree with you there. Fully agree with you.
Digital speeds versus DSL speeds. I mean, take your pick.
I agree. And if you get the fiber, because Cox is supposed to go throughout the valley, we're talking about Maricopa County, and supposedly the next 3 years, I don't know if that's really going to happen or not, but if it truly does go fiber, everybody can be streaming in your neighborhood and it's not going to slow down the internet, which is pretty cool. On top of that, yeah. So they've told me that that's what they're going to do. Whether it happens or not, whole different story. The other thing that you need to think about actually is a lot of people are just using their hotspot on their phone. I didn't bring my phone with me, but I have to tell you,
I've got mine.
There we go. You got your phone with you, and I have to tell you, I only use my hotspot when I'm out there at a Starbucks, when I'm at a hotel. Way too much hacking, different podcast. But with that being said, I am telling you, I am at a hotel. I'm using my hotspot on my phone. And I read over this when I did a speed test. So speedtest.net. And it was reading. I read over this, like, how high do you think the speed would be from your phone using that hotspot to your computer?
5 megabytes a second.
5, you mean AOL dial-up speeds?
Yes.
Yes, okay, and you don't even know what AOL is, and you don't know what dial-up is, but that's
funny,
okay.
I know what sound it makes.
Yeah, you've got mail. Yeah, it's something like that. I was getting 700 meg per second. 700, which is faster than most Cox speeds at the house.
Which is mind-blowing because I've got the same cell service you have, and I'm getting a fraction of that on my devices.
Oh,
so
that's weird because I don't pay anymore anything for that service.
Might have to do some dissecting into what's going on.
Do some dissecting because I took a screenshot of it. I'm like, oh my, there's no way. But I'm telling you, it was that fast. And I can't remember because I travel a lot, but I was in a different state. And I was getting super high speed. So now, basically, I just use my hotspot from my phone, and then I know I'm not going to get hacked.
Yeah, you've done that in front of me, too.
Yeah, I have done it in front of you because it's super important. So, anyway, so that's some ways to save the money. Now, let's talk about the actual internet, because the only thing you do need is you have to have internet to basically fuel that TV and to fuel the different streaming services. So you're going to need internet one way or another, and whether that be through Starlink, whether that be through the T-Mobile box that we just talked about, the Verizon box, through your hotspot if you really wanted to, although you probably don't want to go that route to power your whole house, but I guess you could. Your battery's going to drain pretty quick.
Oh, yeah.
And it might slow down the speed a little bit, but you could. But you're probably going to need high-speed internet one way or another. And so
you can't really survive without it in the U.S.
It's really hard to survive without internet, right? So I'm going to highly recommend that you look at what you're paying. I ask people when I go over there, I go, how much do you pay? They're like, wow, that's kind of an odd question. I'm like, well, you'll see why. And they tell me, I pay $200, I pay $300. And I'm like, wow, that's weird, because I pay $75 and I'm getting, I'm getting the Gigablast, right? So people are like, how do you do that? I'm like, how do you do that where you're paying, double the amount? So
you let things go for a long time.
That's absolutely right. You need to call them back up, and they call it the retention services, and be like, hey, I don't like what I'm paying. Let me see what we can do to bargain something a little bit better. And I would say the majority of the time, they actually say, oh, yeah, there's a better plan out there. Let's go ahead and lower your bill.
Conveniently, the one that's not presented on the website.
Of course. And it happens every time. And remember, when you call them back up, they're going to say, after you tell them you don't want any more cable TV, after you tell them you don't want a landline, they will talk you, or at least try to talk you out of it. Make sure you say, no, no, and double no. So that's going to be important. I only want my internet, but you're streaming and like, no, don't worry, that's exactly what I want. And let me tell you something, most of the packages that they offer, you don't have to get the full terabyte, right? You can get a half a terabyte, something like that. They have 2 terabyte. I don't know if you knew that. But they have 2 terabyte now, and so it goes super, super fast. But even if you hook that up to your TV, I want to let you know it throttles it down. So you're not going to get 2 terabyte of speed on your TV on top of that.
Yeah, there's this thing called bottlenecking. You know, things can only go as fast as the slowest link.
That's exactly what it is. But let me tell you something. You hook that up to your computer, and it's going to be super fast.
Unless you've got a PC.
Right, I heard that one, right? I'm going to smack you after class.
That's all right.
I do want to let you know that with all of the new contraptions that are out, with all the new high-speed internet that you have, I have to tell you, there's a really good chance you're going to have to update the machinery as well. You can have the fastest internet in the world, but if the modem does not accept that fast of a speed, it's going to throttle it down. If your router will not accept that speed, it will throttle it down to that. And I've seen that so many times when I have people say, hey, go get that Gigablast. And they go, great. And then they got it. And they're like, Jeff, my internet is still super slow. And then I look at their
1998 modem.
That's what it is their modem from whatever. And then they go, oh my gosh, so we have to upgrade everything. It's going to be the first thing. The other thing that I want to mention to you, as you could tell, I'm like passionate. I'm passionate about all of our podcasts, but especially...
He's done this a few times.
Yeah, I've done this a few times. But the other thing is make sure you do not rent any equipment. That's the other thing that I want to mention to you, right? A lot of times, Cox and CenturyLink, but I know Cox really well, right? When you get the internet, they're going to, what? They're going to rent a modem, and the modem is like an extra $20 a month or $25 a month.
Which, by the way, you go on Amazon and go buy one of those things, and you pay it off in the equivalent of 2 or 3 months.
I was just going to say 2 to 3 months. You can literally go get one for about $50. It's the exact same one. So basically, think about how much money they're making by renting that out to you when you could go buy it. And same thing, if you do decide to still keep your cable TV, which I don't understand why you would want to do that, remember they charge you for each of the boxes, and especially the VCR on each TV. And those are $15. And I just want to let you know, yeah, almost everything can be bought out there. But once again, we're getting rid of the TV, and now we're going to go ahead and stream the TV to those smart devices. With one last thing, because you mentioned the smart TVs, I do want to let you know you don't even have to go buy a smart TV if you don't want to. I've been to homes. I was just at one this morning, and it has a 10-year-old TV. They go, do I have to go buy a new TV? And I'm like, yeah, you don't have to, because you can always buy a smart stick.
You see, there's this thing called an Apple TV. It's a great invention.
Apple TV is one thing, but you don't have to have an Apple TV. You can have any TV out there and make it a smart TV with a smart stick. Amazon, of course, makes one. They're $30 on Amazon. And you simply stick the stick into the old school TV. It does have to have a USB port and an HDMI, so I will say that.
Actually, no, you can plug it into a regular power adapter and plug it straight into your wall, instead of plugging the power cable straight into your TV.
Oh, I knew that, but it still has to go into the HDMI. Oh, okay. So
yeah, just the USB part.
Oh, okay. He scared me. So once you put it in there, then you can also stream all those different apps, YouTube TV, Max, it goes Disney Channel, Hulu, all the other things on top of that.
Whatever other brand you can possibly find.
Brand you can do it. So between all of that, Jake, honestly, and I'm not joking, $200 to $300 to $400 a month can be saved.
Which translates to a couple $1,000s every single year. Which is really good, especially considering you know what a realtor's favorite 4-letter F word is.
I do.
Free! We want to save as much money as possible.
Oh, is that what it is? That was, okay, never mind. Yeah, that's right. It is.
Not the one that goes the other route. We want to keep this show PG.
Or G. PG, okay.
Yeah, we got to insert some stuff here and there. So with that, any final things you want to share with our audience that's tuning in today?
Yeah, other than that, go save money, everybody. Do not just let it go. Because I'm telling you, my favorite thing, I went over to a house and they literally said to me, Jeff, you're totally dodging it. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm literally allowing you to cut monies out of your budget because it's hard, it's tough out there, right? And saving money is a good thing, so.
No, absolutely. And the last thing that I'll suggest is if you're looking at how much money you can try and save, get a good budgeting app or some sort of budgeting software to help you figure out how much money you can cut. Now, with that being said, guys, we will see you in the next episode of the Tech 4 podcast, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.